My name is Natalie Harper, and I was 30 years old when I finally understood that being the easy daughter was not a compliment. It was a sentence. On the day I married the man I loved, my side of the chapel was almost completely empty. My mother wasn't there. My father wasn't there. My younger sister wasn't there. Not a single aunt, uncle, or cousin from my mother's side showed up. They were all 40 minutes away, standing in my parents' backyard, watching pink smoke burst out of a cardboard box for my sister's gender reveal party. My father had promised me, with tears in his eyes, that he would walk me down the aisle. Instead, I walked alone. Well, almost alone. In the front pew, sitting straight despite the pain in her knees, was my grandmother, Eleanor. 81 years old. Pearl earrings. Silver cane. Navy blue dress. She was the only person from my blood family who came. The next morning, my wedding photographer sent me one photo. I posted it with 6 words. And by lunchtime, my mother had called me 23 times. But before I tell you about that photo, I need to tell you about my sister. Her name is Brielle. Brielle Harper was born 4 years after me, and from the moment she arrived, the whole house shifted around her like she was the sun and we were all just furniture catching the light. When Brielle cried, my mother appeared. When Brielle wanted something, my father found a way to pay for it. When Brielle failed, it was because she was sensitive. When I succeeded, it was because I was responsible. That was the word they gave me instead of attention. Responsible. I was responsible when I packed my own lunch in 5th grade, because Mum was too busy helping Brielle choose a dress for picture day. I was responsible when I took the bus home from my school awards ceremony, because Dad had to pick Brielle up early from dance practice. I was responsible when I got into university and my mother said, "That's wonderful, darling," before asking if I could help Brielle with her maths homework. There were no screaming matches in our house. No dramatic cruelty. No slammed doors. That would have been easier to explain. What I grew up with was quieter. An empty chair at my school play. A forgotten birthday cake. A father who always meant to make it up to me. A mother who said, "Don't be difficult," whenever I asked why Brielle's feelings mattered more than mine. By the time I was 26, I had stopped asking. I built my own life in Bath. I worked as a curator's assistant at a small historical museum, rented a flat above a bakery, and learned to be proud of tiny things no one clapped for. A new exhibition catalog. A clean kitchen. Fresh flowers on my windowsill. A Friday night alone that didn't feel lonely anymore. Then I met Callum. Callum was the kind of man who noticed things. Not the loud things. Not the obvious things. The small ones. He noticed that I always apologized before asking for anything. He noticed that I laughed off disappointment before it could embarrass me. He noticed that I went quiet every time my mother's name appeared on my phone. The first time he saw the pattern clearly was on my 28th birthday. I had invited my parents and Brielle to dinner at a little Italian restaurant near the river. Nothing fancy. Just pasta, candles, and one evening where I hoped, foolishly, that everyone would choose me for once. Callum arrived early with lilies. I sat there in a green dress I had bought because my mother once said green made my eyes look pretty. At 7:18, Mum texted, "Brielle's had a terrible row with Marcus. She's devastated. We'll have to do dinner another night. Love you. Another night." Those 2 words had followed me my entire life. I put my phone face down on the table and smiled like nothing had happened. Callum didn't let me. He reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. "They're not coming, are they?" I shook my head. For a moment, I expected him to say what everyone else said. They probably had a good reason. Don't take it personally. Family is complicated. Instead, he looked at the empty chairs across from us and said, "Natalie, you shouldn't have to be grateful for crumbs." That was the first time someone said it plainly. Not gently. Not dressed up. Just truth. And truth, when you've been denied it for long enough, feels almost violent. A year later, Callum proposed in the museum courtyard after closing time. No big audience. No hidden photographer. Just the 2 of us under a stone archway, with evening rain tapping against the glass roof above us. He was shaking so badly he nearly dropped the ring. I said yes before he finished the question. We planned a small spring wedding at a chapel outside Bath, followed by a reception in a renovated barn with ivy climbing the brick walls. 90 guests. White roses. Long wooden tables. Lemon cake. Nothing extravagant. I paid for most of it myself. Callum's parents offered to help, and they did, quietly, without making me feel small. My own parents offered opinions. Mom said the flowers were a bit plain. Dad said weddings were too expensive these days. Brielle asked if she could wear cream. I should have known then. Still, I wanted them there. That was the embarrassing part. After all those years, after all the forgotten things, I still wanted my mother to cry when she saw me in my dress. I still wanted my father to take my arm and tell me I looked beautiful. I drove to my parents' house 6 weeks before the wedding and asked him properly. Dad was in the conservatory, reading the paper with his glasses low on his nose. Dad, I said, I want you to walk me down the aisle. He looked up slowly. My father, Richard Harper, had never been an emotional man. He fixed engines. He mowed lawns in perfect lines. He believed feelings were private things, like bank statements or medical records. But that day, his eyes softened. Of course, Nat, he said. I'd be honored. You promise? He folded the newspaper and set it aside. I promise. I believed him because I needed to. Mum came in while I was leaving, wiping her hands on a tea towel. Your sister's been very tired lately, she said. Brielle was 5 months pregnant then. That's normal, isn't it? I asked. Mum gave me that look. The one that said I had failed some invisible test of compassion. She's carrying our first grandchild, Natalie. It's a big time for her. I know, I said. But my wedding is a big time for me, Mum sighed. There's no need to compare, but that was all she had ever done. Compare us. Then choose her. 2 weeks before my wedding, Brielle posted a photo on Instagram. She was standing in my parents' garden, holding a sign that read, Baby Harper Reed Gender Reveal Saturday at 11. Saturday. My wedding day. I stared at the screen so long that Callum came over from the kitchen and asked what was wrong. I handed him the phone. His expression changed slowly, like a door closing. Did they tell you about this? No. I called Mum immediately. She answered on the 4th ring, cheerful and breathless. Hello, darling. Why is Brielle having her gender reveal on my wedding day? There was a pause. Not surprise. Calculation. It's only in the morning, she said. Your ceremony isn't until 3. It's 40 minutes away. We'll have plenty of time. You planned a party on my wedding day. Natalie, don't start. Brielle's friends could only do that date, and she's been very emotional. We're trying to keep things calm for the baby. For the baby. The baby had become a shield before he or she had even been born. You've known my wedding date for 7 months, I said. And we'll be there, Mum replied, sharper now. Stop making everything so negative. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, Dad promised. He knows, she said. That should have comforted me. It didn't. The morning of my wedding was bright and cold. The kind of April morning that looks warm through a window until you step outside and feel the bite in the air. I got ready in the bridal room behind the chapel with my best friend, Sophie, and Callum's sister, Amelia. Sophie was a barrister, which meant she had a talent for looking calm while mentally preparing to destroy someone. She zipped my dress in silence, then rested both hands on my shoulders. You look beautiful, she said. I looked at myself in the mirror. Ivory dress. Loose waves. Small pearl hairpins that had belonged to Grandma Eleanor. For a second, I let myself believe the day could still be whole. Then my phone rang. Dad. I answered too quickly. Dad? He exhaled. That was all. One breath, and I knew. Natalie, he said quietly. Your mum thinks we should stay with Brielle a bit longer. My reflection blurred. What? The reveal upset her. She cried when the smoke came out. She thought it was going to be blue, and it was pink, and now she's overwhelmed. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because my mind refused to accept it as real. My wedding starts in 3 hours. I know. You promised me. Silence. Behind me, Sophie stopped moving. Dad, I said, are you coming? Another silence. Then, in the smallest voice I had ever heard from him, he said, I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't cry. Not then. I ended the call, placed my phone on the dressing table, and looked at myself again. For 28 years, I had trained myself not to fall apart in front of people who weren't coming to help. So I didn't. Sophie stepped beside me. What do you need? I swallowed once. My lipstick. She nodded. And that was that. At 2:57, I stood behind the chapel doors holding my bouquet with both hands. There was no father beside me. No mother smoothing my veil. No sister whispering something silly to make me laugh. Through the wooden doors, I could hear the string quartet begin. The wedding coordinator, a kind woman named June, looked at me with careful eyes. Would you like a moment? I shook my head. Moments were dangerous. Moments had cracks in them. Open the doors. The chapel was full on Callum's side. His parents, his cousins, his university friends, workmates, neighbors. On my side, there were 5 people. 2 colleagues from the museum, Sophie's husband, an old teacher I still sent Christmas cards to, and Grandma Eleanor in the front pew. She had traveled by train from Oxford that morning, despite arthritis, despite her doctor telling her not to make long trips alone. She sat with both hands folded over the silver handle of her cane. When she saw me, she stood. Slowly, painfully, proudly. The entire chapel watched her rise. I walked toward Callum with my chin lifted, and my heart breaking so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. Halfway down the aisle, I saw his face. He wasn't smiling. He was crying. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just tears standing in his eyes as if he had taken one look at me walking alone and understood every lonely birthday, every empty seat, every swallowed disappointment that had brought me there. When I reached him, he took my hand. His thumb moved over my knuckles once. Just once. It was enough to keep me standing. The vicar began. Who gives this woman to be married? The chapel went completely still. It was the kind of silence that reveals more than sound ever could. Then Grandma Eleanor's voice rang out from the front pew. I do. No hesitation. No apology. Just 2 words, spoken by the only Harper who had bothered to come. Someone sniffed. Then Callum's mother began to clap. Within seconds, the whole chapel was applauding. I finally cried. Not because my parents were missing, because my grandmother wasn't. The ceremony continued. We said our vows. Callum promised to choose me in rooms where I was absent, in moments where I was tired, and on days when I forgot I deserved choosing. I promised to build a home with him where love would never have to beg for a seat. Afterward, at the reception, people tried not to stare at the empty family table. But of course they stared. The table was impossible to miss. 8 chairs. 8 place cards. 8 untouched linen napkins folded like small white flags of surrender. Richard Harper. Elaine Harper. Brielle Reed. Marcus Reed. Aunt Patricia. Uncle Graham. Cousin Lottie. Cousin James. All absent. All reserved. All empty. Sophie gave the first toast. She lifted her glass, looked at me, then looked at Grandma Eleanor. Natalie spent most of her life being told she was strong enough to understand why people disappointed her, she said. Today, I hope she finally sees that strength is not the same as silence. And I hope she knows that everyone in this room is honored to be here for her. The room stayed quiet for a second too long. Then everyone raised their glasses. Later, Grandma Eleanor insisted on dancing with me. She could barely move, so we swayed under the barn lights while the band played Moon River. Her hand trembled in mine. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For not saying more when you were little. I shook my head. You came today. She looked at me with watery blue eyes. Yes, she said. And that should have been the bare minimum. Near the end of the night, our photographer, Henry, found me by the cake table. There's a photo I think you should see, he said. He turned his camera toward me. The picture showed me just before the ceremony, standing at the open chapel doors. My dress glowed in the afternoon light. My bouquet hung at my side. My face was calm, almost unreadable. Behind me, the empty pews stretched back in clean, painful rows. And in the front pew sat Grandma Eleanor, tiny but upright, her cane beside her, her eyes fixed on me like she could hold up the whole world through sheer will. I stared at the image. Henry lowered his voice. It tells the truth, I nodded. That night, after Callum and I got home, I took off my dress, hung it over the wardrobe door, and sat on the edge of the bed in my slip. My phone had dozens of messages. Most were from people asking where my family had been. I didn't answer. Callum sat beside me. You don't have to explain anything tonight. I know, but I also knew something else. For the first time, I didn't want to protect them. I had spent my whole life editing the truth to make my family look kinder than they were. They're busy. They didn't mean it. Brielle needed them. Mum gets overwhelmed. Dad doesn't like conflict. I was tired of being the public relations department for people who couldn't even show up to my wedding. The next morning, Henry sent a preview album. The chapel photo was first. I opened Instagram, uploaded the picture, and typed 6 words. She came. The rest chose not to. No tags. No long explanation. No anger. Just the truth. Then I turned off my phone and went downstairs, where Callum was making toast. We spent the morning walking by the river. For 2 hours I was simply married. Not abandoned. Not angry. Married. When we came home, my phone looked like it had been set on fire. Missed calls. Texts. Instagram comments. Facebook notifications. 23 missed calls from Mum. 9 from Dad. 6 from Brielle. Messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Aunt Patricia. Natalie, what is going on? Why weren't your parents at the wedding? Cousin Lottie. I saw the photo. I'm so sorry. Mum, take that down immediately. Mum, you are humiliating this family. Mum, answer me. Dad, please call me. Brielle. I cannot believe you would do this while I'm pregnant. I sat at the kitchen table and read them all. Callum stood behind me, one hand resting gently on my shoulder. You don't owe them panic, he said. The phone rang again. Mum. This time I answered. Take it down, she snapped. No, hello. No congratulations. No apology. Just an order. Good morning to you too, I said. Don't be clever with me, Natalie. People are calling. My friends have seen it. Your aunt has seen it. Someone shared it in the church group. Then maybe they should ask why you weren't there. We were with your sister. You were at a gender reveal. Brielle was upset. I was getting married. Mum made a sound of disgust. You have always been so cold about your sister. There it was. The old accusation. Cold. Difficult. Selfish. Words she used when I refused to shrink. I'm not cold, I said. I'm honest. You made your grandmother look like some poor abandoned old woman. No. You did that when you left her sitting there alone. Mum went silent. Then her voice changed. Softened. Not with regret, but with strategy. I don't know how you can do this to me after everything I've sacrificed. I almost smiled. Because for once, the script didn't work on me. This isn't about what you sacrificed, I said. This is about what you missed. You're punishing us. No. I posted a wedding photo. You knew what people would think. Yes, I said. The truth. She hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't call back. Dad phoned an hour later. I let it ring twice before answering. Natalie, he said. He sounded older than he had 2 days ago. I should have come. Yes, I wanted to, but you didn't. Another pause. I didn't know how to leave without making things worse. I looked across the kitchen at my wedding bouquet, now sitting in a glass vase by the sink. You made them worse for me. I know. That surprised me. My father almost never admitted anything plainly. I'm sorry, he said. The words landed softly, but not deeply enough. Because sorry was easy after the photograph. Sorry was easy when the town was watching. Why didn't you come? I asked. He breathed heavily into the phone. Your mother said if I left, I was choosing you over Brielle. And you believed that? No. Then why did you stay? His silence answered for him. Because it was easier. Because disappointing me had always cost him less. I love you, Dad, I said, and my voice finally shook. But I don't know what to do with a love that never arrives. He started to cry then. Quietly. I had only heard my father cry once before, when his brother died. Natalie, I need space. For how long? I don't know. This time, I ended the call. Brielle's messages were worse. You ruined my gender reveal. Everyone is attacking me now. Do you know stress is bad for the baby? You could have waited 1 day to post that. Then, finally, you've always been jealous that Mum and Dad care about me more. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Not because it shocked me, because she had finally said the quiet part out loud. Callum read it over my shoulder. Don't answer, he said. I wasn't going to, and I didn't. By Monday, the photo had spread through half of Bath and most of my parents' social circle. Mum tried to defend herself online with a post about family misunderstandings and private matters being twisted for attention. No one liked it. Then Grandma Eleanor commented. One sentence. I was there. They were not. That comment did more damage than my photo ever could. Because Grandma Eleanor didn't gossip. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't involve herself in drama. If Eleanor Harper said something, people believed it. By Tuesday, Mom had stepped down from the church charity committee to focus on family. By Wednesday, Aunt Patricia sent me a long message apologizing for not coming, saying Mom had told everyone the wedding was just a small ceremony and that the family would celebrate later. I didn't respond. I was done making other people comfortable with my pain. A week after the wedding, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a check for £500 from my parents. No letter. No apology. Just money. I stared at it, then laughed once. A small, sharp sound. Callum looked up from the sofa. What is it? My father is trying to reimburse a heartbreak. I put the check back in the envelope and wrote across the front, I didn't need your money. I needed your hand. Then I posted it back. 3 weeks passed. Brielle had the baby. A girl. They named her Maisie. Mom sent me a photo with no message attached, just the baby wrapped in a pink blanket. I looked at the picture for a long time. She was beautiful. Tiny nose. Dark hair. Fists curled under her chin. None of this was her fault. So I sent a gift. A soft white blanket embroidered with her name. No card. No visit. No performance. Grandma Eleanor called me every Sunday evening after that. Sometimes we talked for 10 minutes. Sometimes for an hour. One night she said, "Your mother says you've broken the family." I closed my eyes. What did you say? I told her a family that breaks when one woman tells the truth was already cracked. I smiled, for the first time all day. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, darling. And I'm proud of you. That was the thing I had waited 30 years to hear from someone in my family. I'm proud of you. Not because I was useful. Not because I was quiet. Because I had finally stood up. Months later, Dad came to the museum. He didn't call first. I saw him through the glass doors, standing in the entrance hall with his hands in his coat pockets. For a moment, I was 8 years old again, waiting for him to notice me. Then I remembered I was 30. I walked over slowly. Hi, Dad. His eyes were red. I've been going to counseling, he said. That was not what I expected. Mom too? He shook his head. No, just me. I folded my arms, not defensively, but because I needed to hold myself together. I don't know what you want me to say. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to understand why I let things happen the way they did. I looked at him. Really looked. He seemed smaller. Not weak. Just human. I'm glad you're trying, I said. But trying now doesn't erase then. I know. I'm not ready. He nodded. I'll wait. That sentence nearly broke me. Because a part of me wanted to believe him. But another part, the wiser part, knew that waiting was not the same as changing. So I let him leave. And I went back to work. My wedding photo is still online. I never deleted it. Sometimes people still comment on it. Some say it's heartbreaking. Some say it's beautiful. I think it is both. Because that photo is not just about who failed me. It is about who didn't. Grandma Eleanor, sitting alone in that pew, gave me something my parents never managed to give me. Proof. Proof that love shows up. Proof that family is not measured by blood, but by presence. Proof that one person choosing you can be louder than a room full of people who didn't. I still love my parents. That is the inconvenient truth. I love my mother. I love my father. I even love Brielle. But I no longer confuse love with access. They do not get to walk in and out of my life whenever guilt makes them uncomfortable. They do not get to miss the important parts and demand a flattering version of the story. They do not get to call my pain disrespect. Callum and I have a small dining table now. 4 chairs. Most nights, only 2 are used. On Sundays, Grandma Eleanor comes over, and we add a cushion to her chair because her back hurts. Sometimes Sophie visits with wine. Sometimes Callum's parents come by with too much food. The table is not large. But every person who sits there wants to be there. And that has changed everything. So if you are the easy child, the strong child, the one everyone assumes will understand, listen to me. You are allowed to stop understanding. You are allowed to want more than leftovers. You are allowed to tell the truth, even if the people who hurt you preferred your silence. My family chose pink smoke in a garden over my wedding vows. They made their choice. Then I made mine. I stopped protecting the people who never protected me. And one photo told the story I had spent my whole life trying not to say out loud. If this story feels familiar, leave a comment. Have you ever been the one your family expected to forgive because it was easier than making someone else change? Because if you have, I want you to know something. You are not difficult. You are not selfish. You are not dramatic. You are just finally done being invisible.